Chris here. Welcome to my channel. This is going to be a little different. I know I usually do videos on like music and things like that, but I decided to share a real-time journey, my real-time journey with subchorionic hemorrhage, specifically an extremely large one. And part of why I decided to share my story is because during my journey, I realized there aren't a whole lot of success stories out there, or even just real-time stories that are shared, because it is very uncommon to have a large subchorionic hemorrhage. Subchorionic hemorrhages are bleeds or bruising between the amniotic sac and the uterine wall during a pregnancy. And they are usually small to medium ones are very common. They happen in about, I believe I've read it's like 1 to 3% of all pregnancies. And they're one of the main causes of bleeding in a healthy pregnancy. Usually, if your hemorrhage is small to medium in size, doesn't cause any problems other than you get the unsettling bleeding. But ultimately, most of them end up resulting in healthy babies. My hemorrhage is a different story. So the other thing I'm going to be talking about in my journey is that I have a chronic placental abruption. So, alright, I'm currently 16 weeks, but I'm going to go back to the beginning of my story just to give you the context and kind of share my journey. So 8 weeks was my first confirmation appointment where they did an ultrasound and confirmed my pregnancy. I have had 3 healthy, uneventful vaginal deliveries before this pregnancy, so this was my 4th baby. In the past, I've never had a miscarriage or a loss, and like I said, uncomplicated pregnancies before. So when I went in for my confirmation scan, seemed like a normal visit to me. I got done with the ultrasound. During the ultrasound, the tech had asked if I had had any spotting or bleeding, and I was like, no, not really. I haven't had any bleeding, so that was a little weird that she asked me that, I thought, but I don't know. I figured maybe they just ask everybody. But then I met with the doctor afterwards, and my doctor was saying that, well, just so you know, you have a small subchorionic hemorrhage. It's about 2.5 centimeters. They're very common. They almost always tend to lead to healthy babies, but just so you know, you do have a subchorionic hematoma. But that was all she said. So really, the way it was presented to me at the time, I was like, okay, this is no big deal. I'm just going to go about my pregnancy like normal, and I'm not going to... I guess I looked it up, but then I was like, everything I read was saying that generally they lead to healthy babies, and so I was like, okay. Sorry, there's a airplane going overhead. By the way, if you hear birds and things like that, my windows are open, which is probably not great for sound, but I am on bed rest right now, and I don't get outside as much as I want to, so I like to leave my windows open and get the zen-y sounds of nature. And all my children are sleeping right now in nap time, so I am trying to enjoy the sounds of nature, and hopefully they're enjoyable for you too, maybe a little bit. But I do apologize, this is not a high quality video, and the sound might be not great, but I am not one of those people that's probably like, I'm not planning to be a full-on YouTuber as far as I know, so I'm just sharing my story because I want to help other people. Sorry, distracted. By the way, I have ADD, so oops. Anyway, back to my story. So yeah, so after my 8-week appointment, I carried on like usual. I was glad my baby had a heartbeat, and it was strong, and everything looked fine. It was measuring on par, so I was like, okay. Fast forward to 10 weeks. I am at this party for my husband's work and having a good day. I guess I should go back. So after my 8-week appointment, I am a very active person. I have 3 little kids. The oldest is 4. So, and my youngest just turned 1. So they're really young, but we are very active usually, and I would leave the house almost every day with my kids, just pack them up in the car. We'd go to playgrounds or wherever. So very active lifestyle. Also, we were in the process of remodeling our bathroom. So during those 2 weeks, I was painting the bathroom and getting down, crawling around on the floor because I had to restain our vanity and some different things like that. Picking up things. My kids are heavy. They're my oldest is probably 35 pounds, 40 pounds, something like that. And I pick them up all the time. So I was just carrying on with life like usual. Usually in the past with my pregnancies, I was doing all kinds of stuff. Definitely always lifting things, and I would do crazy digging projects in the garden at 30 weeks pregnant, and I don't know. I never took it easy with my previous pregnancies, so I was just doing my normal. Okay, so 10 weeks. I'm at this party. Got my kids there. We're hanging out with my husband. I go to the bathroom, and I'm already wearing pads because it is my 4th pregnancy. By the way, TMI, but this is I should have said this at the beginning. I'm talking about stuff, so if you don't want to hear details or anything, you should probably turn this off. Sorry. Yeah, but I wear pads already. This is my 4th baby, and as soon as I'm pregnant, I have stress incontinence issues. Every sneeze, I have to cross my legs or we're in trouble. So I'm always wearing a pad, even if it's just a liner. But I went to the bathroom, and my entire liner is bright red, and my underwear are completely soaked. I was wearing black pants, thankfully, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I am losing this baby. I've never had this happen. I've never had bleeding, ever. Even when I've been in labor, I haven't had bleeding until I'm in the hospital, after my water's been broken, or maybe right before my water breaks. So I was like, this has got to be a miscarriage. And I start having cramping, and it's kind of gushing, and I'm like, I gotta go. So I switched cars with my husband because we had driven separately, and he brought the kids home, and I drove home and called my OB office and explained what happened. I got home, I switched out, put on a full pad, and quickly filled that pad with bright red blood, and I'm cramping, and I'm just certain this is it. And so I'm talking. Sorry, I should probably sit back. Honestly, I don't sit up very much now, but I just didn't know how to film this sitting up. So, yeah. And when I spoke to the midwife on call, she's like, yeah, the amount of blood you're having, and you said it's bright red, and then you're experiencing cramps. It does sound like you're probably miscarrying. You can either come into the ER right now, or you can wait till Monday, because it was a Friday evening past when the clinic was closed. She said, or you can wait to schedule an appointment on Monday, and we'll just make sure that everything was passed. So I was like, okay. And I decided to wait till Monday, because I was like, I don't want to spend a big ER bill just to find out that my baby's dead. It's not like they can do anything. I asked the OB on call, is there anything you could do? She's like, no, not this early. There's nothing that can be done to stop it. So that whole weekend, I did have more bleeding. I would have gushing. But anyway, I got to my appointment on Monday, and I went in, and I was just bracing myself for the worst. But yeah, the ultrasound tech pulled up, she checked, and she was like, oh, there's a heartbeat. Baby looks good. And I just started crying. I waited for her to tell me what the heartbeat actually was, because I was worried that, well, maybe it's still dying or something, and the heartbeat was great, plenty fast. So when she said the rate, it was 170 or something like that. It was high, where it should be. and I started crying. But she said, you definitely have a subchorionic hemorrhage, and it is very large. So I went to my doctor after that, and she told me, so yeah, you have a subchorionic hemorrhage. It's 7 centimeters. You need to be on bed rest. I don't want you doing laundry. She gave me a 15-pound lift limit, which meant none of my kids at that moment in time. And then I was supposed to come in 2 weeks to be checked again. So 12-week appointment, come in, and my baby was checked again. Baby's growing perfectly, looks perfect, but the hemorrhage had grown some more. And so I saw my doctor, and I wanted to clarify the bed rest things, because I was like, I don't know how to be doing this. Like, I was trying my best to do as well as I could with my kids. Like, I had modified things. I would have my boys climb on the couch if they needed to get changed and stuff. So I was doing a lot of sitting, not laying down. But I was still lifting my daughter because I didn't know how not to do that. She was 17 pounds, so I figured she was close enough. And I was trying to do like crock pot meals and things where I didn't have to be on my feet very long. But when I talked to my doctor, she was saying, well, there's not really science to back up that bed rest does that much, but yeah, the pelvic rest, keep doing that, because you can't have sex or orgasm or anything. No nipple stimulation, nothing. But she said, so definitely keep doing that. But she said, like, I don't want you to feel like stuck in the house all the time. Like, you can probably go to church just fine. That's probably not going to cause you to lose your baby and stuff. So she kind of seemed a little more loose on what that meant. Like, she kind of switched it more to a modified bed rest than a strict bed rest. So I was like, okay, I can manage that. But she said, we're really concerned because your hemorrhage has continued to grow and we don't know why. So she said she was going to transfer me to a high-risk doctor. Okay, so high-risk doctor. I go to the high-risk doctor on my 14-week appointment. And I go in, and they have a much higher tech ultrasound machine. And and they ended up doing basically like a mini anatomy scan. They looked at all the organs of my baby. It was a very long scan, probably like half an hour at least. And so I got done with that. They measured my hemorrhage, and it was basically the same size as it was before. So then I was waiting to see the high-risk doctor, and she called me back. His first words out of his mouth are, well, first he was asking, so what has your activity level been? And I was like explaining that I've been doing the modified bed rest thing that my doctor was saying, but really that just looks like I'm trying to like lay down in between taking care of the kids and trying not to do difficult meals, and like I've tried to modify things and I'm only lifting my daughter. And he was like, no, okay, you can't be taking care of your kids at all. Who can come? Who in your family can come? Who doesn't work, and who can come help and watch your kids, because you need to be on strict bed rest. Your hemorrhage is not just some small hemorrhage. Like, he talked about the study that he was saying there are not studies for your size hemorrhage because it's not common. I haven't seen one of your a hemorrhage your size in a while. And I've been practicing for 35 years. And he was saying, you have 50-50 chance of survival right now with this baby. And that's with bed rest and pelvic rest. And he's like, you need to be doing bed rest. Only getting up to use the restroom, eat, and take a shower. And he was saying, in my 35 years, anecdotally, Like, there are moms that are single moms and they just can't do the bed rest. And he was saying, and honestly, their outcomes tend to be worse. They don't always end up well. And the people that tend to do better are the people who actually do the bed rest in addition to pelvic rest. So he's like, it's just like if you were to hit your elbow and it started bleeding, the more you move it, the more you're causing it to continue to bleed. The less you move it, the less it's going to bleed. That's what he keeps saying. So, and then he was saying, but honestly, what concerns me more than the hemorrhage is that you have an active hemorrhage that's 10 centimeters by, I think it was like 4-ish centimeters and 2 centimeters, something. I don't remember the other things. I've really only been remembering the longest things. But he said, the most concerning thing is that I have a retroplacental clot, which was a subchorionic hematoma, and it has caused my placenta to detach by 1/3. Like 1/3 of my placenta is no longer attached. And he said that is the most concerning thing that he is worried about, and that is the biggest reason that he wanted me on strict bed rest. So now he said it is possible for you. It's called a chronic placental abruption, and it appears to be stable because it is clotted underneath, but you are definitely at risk of further separation, so we need to keep that from happening as best as we can. Right now your baby is measuring perfectly on track. You couldn't ask for a better baby. Like, your baby is growing wonderfully. Everything looks good. So we really need to try to keep that baby in there. And you want to know that when you get to the end of this, no matter what the outcome is, like, you want to know that you tried everything. And so that was really a punch to the gut, though. My husband and I don't have family nearby, and we knew we were not going to be able to have family. The one good thing was we had planned to go on a trip to see my family that week. I was going to okay it by the high-risk doctor, because speaking to my OB, she had sounded kind of like that might be okay as long as I just sit around the whole time and don't do anything, that it would probably be all right. But the high-risk doctor was like, absolutely not. So our trip got canceled, but the good thing was my husband was off then for a week and a half because he had already requested off for the trip. So as soon as I got home, he took over with the kids, and I just went straight to the couch. And yeah, so, and then we were like, we have to get a nanny. We just have to. There's not really a way around it. We need help, and we don't have family. We do have church family, but there's no one who can watch my kids every day for my husband to be able to go back to work. And there isn't like an FMLA leave that he could take with this situation or whatever. So this was, yeah. So anyway, so as soon as I got home, I started searching for a nanny. And I'm a Christian, and like my whole church has been praying. Like, as soon as we announced our pregnancy around 12 weeks, I started asking for prayers for our baby and for me. And so our whole church has been praying. Our friends have been praying and lifting us up, and people have been bringing us meals and offerings to play with my kids or whatever in the afternoons or in the mornings, and it's been really such a huge blessing. But I feel like God kind of was going before us, and even when we started our search for the nanny, the first day we got contacted by the sweet girl, and she was like, all right, this sounds like something I would be interested in. And so, and then we interviewed her a couple days later, and she just hit it off with our kids immediately. And the other thing is we realized that with our tax returns and our child credits from this year, like, the cost of a nanny for us at 4 hours a day, which is what we needed, because once we get to nap time, we're fine, because my husband can stop working around nap time to take over. Like for if it was 6 months, because that's the most that we would need if I could actually make it to full term, is covered by those tax returns and child credits. So that's pretty amazing how God, provided for us that way, with money we hadn't even been thinking about. So like, God has been going before us on all of this. He's provided a nanny. Our nanny couldn't start right away, so he provided a babysitter before then who could fill in for the weeks that the nanny couldn't start at. And like, God is just, every step he's been providing for us, which has been really huge. It's been a roller coaster of emotions and faith, and just knowing what to trust, because I don't know what God wants in this pregnancy currently. I don't know what the outcome is going to be yet. I do hope that God wants this baby to have a long life, but I do know that even if that's not the plan, that he has a plan for this little boy. I've gone through lots of emotions. They've been up and down, like questioning God's goodness in a couple places, like, if he does take my baby away, what was the point of his life? But now I'm realizing, like, already the ways that God has used our son and the journey, like sharing the journey with all of our friends, and the things that God's been teaching me. Like, I do feel like God is already using our son's life to make an impact. So yeah, it's been a major walk of faith, and just like having to trust that, like, I can't trust that my baby is going to for sure be okay, because we got 50-50 odds. The only thing I can trust is if God wants our baby to live, he will. He will live, because my God is completely in control. He's the only one in control. I have a high-risk doctor who is so knowledgeable, but even then, all we can do is just monitor and wait. There's nothing that can be done. Like, I am taking ALA, which is alpha lipoic acid, and I'm taking some progesterone orally, because there have been some studies that with smaller and medium-sized hemorrhages, it can speed up the healing process. The high-risk doctor said it really barely changes the percentage likelihood of success for my size hemorrhage, he was saying, but he still prescribed them just as, why not? So that's one thing we've been doing, and I've been trying to eat very healthy as much as I can. But yeah, so just like realizing it's out of my control. It's out of the doctor's control. The only one who has any control is God, and having to sit in that and just recognize that, like that is how it is, and I can't control this, but I need to just let go and let God do with this what he's going to. But one thing that I have noticed, just since all the prayers and everything, I've been given a lot of peace, even throughout this. Like, usually every appointment I'm anxious and a mess afterwards, because every appointment so far has been, I've had appointments every week since I started with the high-risk doctor, just because of the concerns with the hematoma and the placenta, and every appointment since has not been positive. We have not had shrinkage of the active bleed or the subchorionic hemorrhage. It has stayed around 10 centimeters. And my placenta separation, thankfully that has stayed the same. It's not, so far it hasn't grown, so that's good. I'm 16 weeks, and so still a long ways from viability. I've got 8 weeks before viability, and but 12 or 13 weeks, I guess, 12 or 13 weeks before, like, likelihood of survival is 90-95%. So that's kind of what I'm praying towards, that we can make it there. I mean, viability or that 90 to 95% likelihood of survival is what I would love. But we'll see. I just don't know. Sorry, this is getting rambly, and I know that's not fun to watch, and I am not the type that is a real YouTuber who's gonna edit my videos, so I like to watch videos at double speed personally, or listen to them. I don't know that everyone likes to do that, but I hope that's maybe what you did when you listened to this, so that you didn't have to, I don't know, maybe it wasn't a big deal taking this journey. But I did want to share my journey because there aren't many people that have shared theirs, and the few that have given me hope. So, yes, so I will continue to try to do a couple update videos, and I sure hope this is a success story, but I don't know. So yeah, but know that you're not alone. There is hope, and so far I'm still carrying this baby, and I've known that it was a 50-50 chance of survival now for about, I guess, a month. A month is how long I've known that I've had a 50-50 chance, and baby's still in there, still growing, right on track, doing well. The one positive that the doctor tried to remind me at my last appointment when I was crying, because there was nothing better in my mind, was, well, he was saying, you know what, staying the same is actually better than worse. And he was saying one thing that's good is, like, even if your hemorrhage and placenta didn't change at all in size across your pregnancy, the good thing to keep in mind is that that's still actually positive, because if your hemorrhage stays 10 centimeters, realize that your baby and your placenta continue to grow. So he was saying that, and the placenta as well continues to grow. So right now it's like a third of your placenta is detached, but as it grows it'll become a smaller percentage as long as it doesn't continue to detach. And the hematoma becomes a smaller in proportion to your baby and the placenta, and becomes less of a problem the bigger your baby and placenta are. So he was saying the biggest thing is we don't want it to grow. So that was encouraging. So I'm trying to trust that even if it doesn't shrink, like, it's still okay, or not the end of the world, that it's still better than if it was growing. So that's what I'm holding on to right now. What I'm ultimately holding on to is just that no matter what happens, like, God has been with me during this time. He has used people, and He's used His Word and just His presence to comfort me. And so I keep thinking, you know what, if the worst thing happens in my mind and we lose this baby, like, He's already shown me that He can comfort me against reason. Like, because nothing has changed in my circumstances, and yet He's lifted the anxiety. He's given me comfort and peace anyway during the week. I am functional. I am not having trouble sleeping. And I can only attribute that to God and His Spirit giving me grace and helping me through this, and comforting me. So I have to believe that if I lose this baby, He's going to be there. And that's the one, I mean, He promises that. He says, when you walk through fire, you will not be burned. When you go through the waters, I will be with you. Like, He's talking about, like, in the Bible, there's so many places where He says He is with us through the worst things that we can experience. Psalm 23. There's so many Psalms that talk about how He is with us, and He is right next to us when we're going through hardship. And that is a promise that I can hold on to. No matter what the outcome, I know that God will be there on the other side. And I might be mad at Him a little bit, or I might be disappointed, and I might have to have some conversations where I'm like, I just don't get it. Why did you do it? I don't get it. And it's gonna be hard, but I know that He's still the one that I'm going to run to. he's still the one that I, like, where else can I go? There's no one else who can comfort. There's no one else that can actually reach into my heart and supernaturally help me. When you lose a child, no one can say any specific words that are going to actually make you feel better. There's nothing that can soothe that, but God can, because He is capable and He has given us a comforter in His Spirit if we're His children. And so, yeah, so that's what I'm trying to trust in, that no matter what the outcome, I don't know what the outcome is, but I know I'm not going to be alone on the other side of this. So that's really good. My husband has been forced into single parenting. Wasn't expecting that at all, but he's doing everything. Diaper changes, food, feeding my kids, cleaning them up, everything. And he's been so amazing. I know I'm lucky to have him. I know he gets exhausted. He's so tired. And then, it's really hard on the relationship too, not being able to have sex or, have mutual satisfaction. Like,